Hi, everybody. We are back live coming to you from Westchester. We are inside. They were kind enough to give us a room, my good friend Jerry Brown.
Welcome back.
And we are going to be talking about the Westchester TOC Tournament of Champions. It was the first ever Chicago Summer Series event. And before we get into that, just want to wish everybody a good Memorial Day weekend. Thoughts and prayers go out to all of the families that have lost service members in defense of this country. And for those of you who are active service members, our prayers are with you. And we hope that it'll be a long time before anybody in your family would have to honor you on a Memorial Day weekend. So come back safe. Jerry, Westchester TOC, we got it in the books. Weather cooperated. Was a great tournament, and we saw some interesting things, I thought, during the weekend.
Yes, we did. We had some, I wouldn't say surprise teams because all 24 teams are capable of winning. But that tough for the bracket, I don't want to hop ahead of myself, but that Flash 45 high Y bracket, I think Signature was in there too. That little quad was tough and entertaining to watch those games.
Yeah, the games we had some really good softball games during the weekend, and we had a couple of teams I thought that we thought were going to be pretty good. They kind of showed us they were going to be around. Of course, Moneyline has been on an upward trajectory, and they did a fantastic job, I thought, during the weekend of continuing to improve. And I think that as the summer goes on, they're just going to keep getting better and better. And I also thought the Meatball City team looked very good. They got some stone cold hitters on that team, and I thought they did very well. Fat Kids came back and knocked Signature out of the tournament late on Saturday, last game of the night, right after they kind of took a beating. They had to walk over to the other diamond and play a game, and they ended up walking Signature off. I thought that was a big win for the Fat Kids, and I thought March looked very well, ended up tied for fifth, and I thought that they beat some teams we thought they were going to be much improved, and they certainly showed that. And I think as we get into a little bit with the statistics, which we're going to have some graphics for you guys coming up, I think you guys will see the fact that we had some players from teams doing some really good things, and that's partly why we launched the Chicago Summer Series, because we wanted to keep these statistics. We wanted people to see that just because you're not on a major team doesn't mean you're not a great player. And I think by the end of the summer, it could be very surprising in terms of, people that are going to pop up in the top 15 or 20 of some of these statistical categories. So, of course, why don't you break it down, Jerry? Tell us the top 6 teams, and then we'll get into the stats.
Well, before we go that way, I want to also send a shout out to Hex, who had a very good tournament, and I think they finished 4th.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think Hex, no one counted anyone out, but Hex kind of started off had a bumpy start, but ended up having a really great tournament. And also, I want to mention Shooters, who had a couple quality wins, and they came out the bracket being high wide to open it up, and they just didn't. They did pretty good for me. So I'll start off with the first, second, and third.
Yeah.
Well, first we want to give congratulations to Flash and the MVP, the co-MVP, which was Danny and Vito. And second place went to Circus, who were defending 2P champions. And they didn't get the 3P in, but there's always next year. And then third went to Moneyline, which was very good, like you said before. Moneyline's on the upward. Fourth was Hex. which was I spoke before about Hex, and fifth was March, with quality wins for Moneyline against, we'll call it Moneyline losses, excuse me, were against Flash and Circus, which is nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, looking at some of these teams that picked up players in the offseason, I think Signature is a good example. They basically overhauled their whole team, and I'm sure they were disappointed they went out on Saturday, but I've been saying since Jump Street that I think they're going to be better the back half of the year versus early in the year. I just think that they're still putting it together, but they had some guys that had good tournaments, and they certainly have talent and ability. When we look at that Meatball City team, I think they're going to get better. They have the talent. They just need the belief now. And they had a pretty good tournament. So we're going to get into the statistics now. We'll post these graphics later on so you can look at it. We don't have the team standings yet. If you're on Game Changer and you went to the Summer Series page, there are team standings there, but the way we calculate it, you get points for entering these events, points for place finishes, points for wins in the winner bracket, loser bracket, points, like I said, for winning the event. So as a result, just looking at wins and losses doesn't really tell the story. So Anthony Tyler is working on that. We'll get that out in another day or two so you can see where all the 24 teams currently rank. And again, don't get confused with our major list that comes out at the end of August, because this is just for the Summer Series. We take into account league play for that. So it's a little bit more detailed when we do the major list. But as far as the Summer Series goes, because we will have a Summer Series champ, we'll have those team standings out, and we'll be updating that after every event, as we will be putting out the top 15 players or so. So currently, let's slide over to the batting average. And again, you had to have a minimum of 10 at-bats. And what was interesting there, Jerry, was Circus played 9 games.
Yeah.
So their guys had a tremendous amount of at-bats. So you're going to see a lot of Circus guys in all of these statistics with crazy numbers. And you're going to be like, geez, what's going on with Circus and all these big numbers? Well, they played 9 games. So they got a lot of at-bats, which obviously means more opportunities to get hits, doubles, triples, RBIs. So as the season goes on, we'll see how that shakes out. Now, as we get back to the batting average, right now you had to have a minimum of 10. We looked at it as if you had a bye and you went clean, you had to have at least 2 at-bats per game. When we go to the North-South, that's a 32-team field. There are no byes. And so as a result of that, you'd need to win 6 if you went clean. And so we'll add 12 at-bats. So after the North-South, in order to qualify, you're going to need 22 at-bats. And we'll ramp that up as the season goes on. And so these numbers will change. Again, we have some guys, with 12, 13 at-bats. They had good numbers. We'll see as the season goes on whether they can maintain it or not. So we'll go back to the numbers. Wes Shannon, BTA, was an absolute beast. He hit 800 and was just a wrecking ball the entire weekend. So he's our current batting leader. Brian Barzowski from Whale, tremendous, 769. Another hitter, and we always knew Brian was a good hitter. Played with that Miller team, and just can really swing the stick. He came up to me and made a comment, because I commented, I think, on one of the streams at how well Brian was doing, and he's he was like, "Oh no, the kiss of death! You put the Malouk on me." And Jackson Perry actually came up to me on Sunday and made the same comment. He was like, "Man, why are you trying to jinx my guy?" But he ends up hitting 769, so I don't think there was much of a Geo jinx going on there.
Not that way.
No, not that way.
It might be the Geo lucky charm, guys.
Yeah, well, I'm not Irish. Not Irish.
Well,
but,
it could be a little luck here and there along the way.
well, I could take a DNA test and find out. But so, excuse me, folks. So, checking in third, a kid that I comment all the time when I do their live streams on Meatball City, Mike Wiz. And when him and his brother Nick are there, they are a different looking softball team, and Mike was just ridiculously good. He hit 750, and he was just pounding the ball. And, sometimes a guy hits 750, but there are balls that guys get hands. Jerry, they'll get their hand on the ball, and you wonder, is that a hit or is it there? He was getting hits, and nobody was within 5 feet of the ball. Clean hits. And I really like the way the kid swings the bat. And then a guy that I got to be around a little bit when I was with Brick, Elliot Pisarcik, 727 for the shooters. And Elliot hadn't really played in a couple of years, but he really came out and swung the bat well. Elliot, just a sweet kid, and I was real happy to see him not only back in softball, but having success. So then we get to a kid that, maybe people don't know about yet, but had a great tournament, and that's Tom Boyce from the Fat Kids. He hit a very cool 700 and was playing some pretty good defense. And this is, this is the type of kid that the Summer Series is designed to try to highlight, to
showcase
a little bit, so he can go out there and get his due. And hopefully, as this thing grows and we do it, hopefully for the next 20 years, he'll be able to, go to the Hall of Fame if he was to sustain this type of success, and he would have proof that he could do it at the highest level. So. Then we move on, another kid from another team that a lot of people might not know.
No.
But from streaming their games, doing the Dome tournament down in GoPro that Francisco Arenas ran, and just having done a few Sauce games, Mike Oliver, 692, just a hard-nosed kid, plays hard, and another kid that thanks to the Summer Series, has a chance to kind of showcase his abilities.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Mike Oliver, but I heard some really good things about him, and thanks to the Summer Series, like you said before, it will expose him and let others see there's some good players on all teams, not just the top four.
Yeah, and that was the purpose of this, and we still got a few glitches, and I know we'll get some complaints about the statistics down the road. But we did notice sometimes managers, I harp on it, position, first, last name, and uniform number. Because if the scorekeeper can't find a player and they end up creating a player card, your player's stats might get split, or they might not get accurately, recorded. And so when your players complain, we're just going to send them right back to you. And you're going to have to explain why you can't fill out a lineup card. And here's a familiar face to you, Jerry Brown. Anthony Brewer.
Oh, one of the best.
Former Solutions guy, also from BTA, hit 688. And I tell you, the kid's like a fine wine. He just keeps getting better and better every year, despite the fact that he's about 150 now.
Oh, no way.
No,
149.
No.
But Anthony Brewer is one of the top level outfielders and one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. and 16 in softball. He's very quiet. He's a leader by example, and that's I wish more players were like that.
Yeah, he's always been pleasant, but like you say, quiet kid. If I say something to him, it's like trying to pull the back molar out. He just doesn't say a whole lot.
Not at all.
Which might be a good thing, depending on what he's thinking about me. But then a familiar face, a kid who's been an MVP at Forest Park, Matty Richards from Chicago Dynasty, hitting 643. He had a real good tournament, but we've come to expect that out of Matty. He's a stone cold hitter, so no surprise there.
No.
And then we got the kid that I think stirs the drink, Curtis Ostrom.
One of my favorites.
From Hex. Curtis was flying around the field all weekend, 632. Big reason why Hex finished fourth in the event. And he's always been a gamer going back to his smack-out days. And as he's gotten older, he's another kid, still flies, plays a great outfield, and just a tough kid. Checking in at number 10, another very, very familiar face, Kevin Duff from Circus, 618, and, or 625, excuse me. And he, not only a terrific hitter, but probably one of the best second basemen and 16 in softball, great two-way player. Kevin, one of the founders of that Circus team after spending a long time with Windy City and Signature, and done a great job. That team is flat out loaded. They were missing Michael Longi, and Chad Hook had a great weekend, and Chad is healthy now. He was throwing BBs around the infield, and expect to see Circus go deep and maybe win a tournament or two this year. Then we got Brian Koronkowski from Circus.
Another one.
618.
Another one.
Former Mudville guy.
I knew you were going to say that. I was trying to beat you to the punch. But go ahead.
Yeah, Brian, one of my favorite guys. He's as good as it gets. A little shift for him this year. They're playing him in center field instead of left now that they picked up Brian Sherwin. And, he can go gap to gap. And I'm always surprised, like with Little B, it's great when you've got a left fielder like Brian or Little B is, but, to me, they're only taking away a third of the outfield.
Right.
You put kids like that in center, and they're taking away 2/3 of the outfield. And Brian really showed he was going gap to gap, going back, coming in, and he also hit the ball. Right behind him is Mike Manzella from Flashback, and Mike really had a terrific tournament. He hit 611. I know he wasn't an MVP, but I thought he had an MVP-like performance during the weekend. Mike was just pounding the ball, and extra base hits and RBIs and you name it. I thought he was a huge part of what Flashback did over the weekend. And I got to say, he's a very colorful dresser.
Yes, he is. I like the hat.
He had I think that's a Flashback hat. I couldn't really see it. It had the weird design.
It looked like something from the Grateful Dead, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's got cleats that look like he should be playing for Dynasty.
Yeah.
And he's always got the colorful leggings, but he's been a good hitter for a long time. He was on that Hex team, played with the 45s, now he's with Flash. And they didn't do a lot in the offseason, but that was a really solid pickup.
It was a great pickup.
Yeah, and the other kid too, Steph McLaren, has been filling in. They've had some injuries, and he's allowed them really not to miss a beat. And of course, with guys like Mike Myers, with
Mr. Dependable.
Mr. Dependable, yeah. Joey Egardo was hurt, and he couldn't play over the weekend. And Justin Smikowski's coming off that shoulder injury. So Flash won the tournament, and they really weren't even at 100%. So excuse me, folks. Now we get into another player that maybe nobody knows, but he had a great weekend, Brian Regal from Traffic. So another kid that is a younger player, you know, he hit 600. I'm sure Nicky Gatta was tickled pink to see Brian's success.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be keeping an eye on him as he hit 600. And then moving down, we got a couple of signature guys, Pope at 600, Mark Kozel, who came over from Impact, and of course Danny Marston also coming over for Impact, hitting 600. So those two kids look like they're settling in and they're swinging the bat real good. So obviously there's a lot more players statistic-wise that you know, we just can't put everybody on the graphic. We'd be here all day. But these were the top, you know, 15 hitters, if you will, all above 600. And these kids all had just a great weekends. And there were a lot of guys that hit over 500 as well. Again, small sample size. You know, some of this is going to change as we move forward in the summer. We still got 3 events left. But out of the gate, these 15 kids really had great weekends and separated themselves a little bit from the pack.
Well, I like to say good job, guys, for all the guys who made the top 15. Great job. Keep grinding hard, keep playing hard, and hopefully that whoever finished 16th, 17th, and 18th can catapult up into the top 15. That gives you something to strive for.
Yeah, absolutely. So our next category is we've got the RBI leaders, and you're going to see a lot of circus guys on here. They scored a boatload of runs and they played a boatload of games. You know, you look at it, the top 4 RBI guys are circus guys, and you know, Manzella sneaks in there, and then at number 6 you got another circus guy. So, you know, you got Chad Hook with 15 RBIs, Ooh. Timmy Korenkowski with 13 RBIs, Kevin Duff with 11 RBIs. Sorry about that. I don't know why people are texting me during the show, Jerry. Please don't do that. So you got Hordecki with 11 RBIs, and then of course Mike Manzella, we talked about, 11 RBIs. Tony Valdez, 10 RBIs. And then we get down to Brian Davis, Alex Chavez, your guy.
Another circus guy.
Right, your guy Brewer, and Rob Scahill from Hex. They all check in with 9 RBIs.
Hold on, let me guess this next one. A circus guy.
Correct. Brian Korenkowski, Spencer Mahoney, and Mike Greco, they all check in with 8 RBIs. And then, of course, we got Mike Wiz, who we talked about a little bit, 7 RBIs. And then, of course, 2 more circus guys, Jason Rojas, Chris D'Agostino with 7. And then, of course, Joe Pish, Jimmy Moretti, and Anthony Scarlata all checking in with 7. So that's pretty good work. And again, we did tell you, Circus, they played the most games.
Right.
They scored the most runs in the tournament. And so obviously the guys are represented in the RBI tabulation. So again, for things like the RBIs, home runs, triples, doubles, there are no minimum at bats. You know, so even if you didn't qualify for, say, the batting championship because you didn't have enough at-bats, if you're being extraordinarily efficient at driving in runs, you might still win an RBI title because there's no at-bat restrictions on those statistics. So these kids all showed that they could drive runs in, and for most of these guys, they were big runs through the weekend. So gives you kind of a little bit of an insight over, you know, who as a manager you might want to worry about in crucial spots. And me and you talk about this all the time. I don't think enough guys get walked. when they should get walked. And when you have an open base, I think.
Simply ego. It's
Yeah,
ego-driven.
Yeah, I would think so.
It's okay to walk them.
Some pitchers don't like to walk anybody. If you're a manager out there, that's your job. You got to go out and tell your pitcher, hey, we're not pitching to this guy.
No.
And as these statistics become a little more hard, I think teams will start to get an idea as to who they want to pitch to and who they don't. One of the things we'll try to do is we'll also try to get every team statistics up and out before the North-South so you guys can
That'd be
see
good.
it. And then, at that point, you can really start to look at it. And I don't know if that'll affect guys' stats if all of a sudden managers realize they can't pitch to a guy, but so that's just something interesting. So now we're going to go to home runs. And this is a crazy graphic, Jared.
Yeah.
We had Scotty Herdecki and Greg Fleming hit 2 home runs. Of course, Greg with the Pharaohs last year, he's making that
PCA
jump
didn't
up.
Pharaohs.
He's making that jump up to signature, and so far he's adapted very well. Had an early leg injury. He seems like he's over it. Hit the ball great. A couple of home runs in the tournament, and I like Greg quite a bit, and I talked to him very well. And then you see there's just a boatload of guys with 1 home run, and we just kind of listed them. Tried to alternate yellow and white, make it a little easier for everybody to maybe pick up the names. But, you'll notice on there are some guys that are well-known, some guys that are not. I do want to point out Jackson Perry's home run was a bomb. From what they told me, it was about 15, 20 feet beyond the fence at Westchester. Jackson will laugh and tell you it was wind-aided, but he's strong enough to get out of that park anytime. So that might have been, from what people tell me, one of the longest home runs they've seen at Westchester, 16-inch. And then, of course, we had some young kids on this list hitting home runs, guys like Frank Perrone, and we also had Jeff Mastari, young kid, upcoming player. So when you go through the list, it's very interesting. Michael Crawford from Impact hadn't played for a while, but he's back. We actually had a couple of 10 deep guys on there, Latrell Giles and Cordell Irving, and I like that Cordell.
Yeah, I do too.
I wish he would just slow down a little bit. I think he's very talented. He's a little hard on himself, but I think he's got a chance to be a good player. And also, P.J. Raines, off to a red-hot start. Little B, the guy you picked up over this past weekend.
Ron?
Ron.
One of my favorites.
Had a home run, and nobody thinks about him hitting home runs.
Not at all.
So he chipped in with one, and, Ziggy Cryoka from March, another new kid that we haven't really seen much of yet.
We got to get a new kid list, a new player list.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on. These guys keep texting me, and they know better. So that's our home run list, and then we'll get to the triple list. But I think it's exciting when I was going through this stuff, putting these graphics together, seeing everything that was going on, and just being able to see the younger players and see what's going on. So we'll get to the triple list here, much shorter list. There were other players with 1, but we just kind of stopped at the kids
2.
that had 2.
Yeah.
So Ryan Russ from Flashback, everybody knows him as a terrific left fielder. The last couple of years or so, Ryan has really turned into a great player. from the offensive standpoint. And sorry, folks, I got to stop these people from texting. So hopefully that's going to take care of that little issue. We'll get back to the list. Brian Russ with 3, and then that guy Chad Hook checking in with 2, Jimmy Moretti 2, PJ Raines, Spencer Mahoney, that guy Mike Wiz, Robbie Grisano, Colin Farley, Jason Ganick, Nick Burt, also another young player, and of course Marty Dozen. So those were your triple leaders, and so you're starting to see some guys that had great tournaments. Mike Wiz is showing up on a few of these lists, Chad Hook. So again, it's exciting to see that. Most of the guys on this list can run, so it's not surprising, especially with those big outfields, that some of these guys would have triples. But again, those are your triple leaders, and we'll move on to our doubles leaders. And we're going to see some circus guys on this list too.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, me either. I mean, Kevin Duff and Curtis Ostrom tied with 7. And, of course, they both had great tournaments. Me and you talk all the time about Danny Dispenza being a double machine.
Yeah.
He proved it again this weekend. Here's Chad Hook again, not only hitting triples, but hitting doubles.
Doubles too, huh?
Wes Shannon, of course, no surprise. Wes, fast and a powerful hitter. Herdecki, Mark Minizzi, Adam Haas, also checking in with 4. And then we get to the 3s, and there were a lot of guys with 3s, as you can see. Grisano showed up on the triple list. He also showed up in the double list. Mahoney, same thing. Mike Wiz, same thing. Of course, Brian Koronkowski, Brian Davis, Jason Rojas, Chrissy Daggs, Julian Gutierrez, and there's that guy, Brian Regal from Traffic. I told you, Regal had a great tournament, so very well done, young man. So you can see some of these guys that just had monster weekends. And, when you look at the names of the teams here, they all had a very, decent degree of success in this tournament. And, it's not surprising when you see circus, moneyline, flashback, circus guys, hex guys, because they did finish in the top 4. And normally, if you do that, you have guys that had great weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a wrap up on the statistics. And of course, coming up, we have the North-South.
All right.
That will be in Schaumburg, new park, big outfields out there, a lot of room, a lot of space. It's a very clean park. They're going to be having food and grilling out there. And
how many diamonds do they have,
well, they have 5, but I think Danny is probably only going to use 4 diamonds. Reason for that is it's easier to keep everybody lined up so that people that you're playing in your part of the bracket don't have an advantage in terms of maybe getting more rest than you or whatever. Plus, it's always nice to have that extra field, not only to hit on, but in case you do fall behind, you can always shift the game to an open diamond. So we'll be talking to Danny about that. We'll be finding out when he's going to do the draw. I'm not sure where he is in terms of, he'd like to get to 32. That's the number he's historically had. So if you're interested in playing in the North-South, you need to contact Danny. And it's my understanding 1 or 2 Iowa teams might be in that weekend.
More the merrier.
So, the reports we're getting out of Iowa is, Chucks and Old Timers merged, and the people in Iowa are saying that that team is going to be a load, that they're just stacked. And I'm actually going to be taking a trip out to Marshalltown next weekend, so I'll get a chance to actually look at them for their clincher tournament. And so that should be interesting to see how they look. Of course, Marshalltown, a much smaller park, so I would imagine out there that Chuck's team is going to be a load.
Bombs.
Yeah, bombs, dip and drive, baby. So we got that coming up. We'll be back live streaming this weekend. We will put some graphics and more statistics up this week for all of you that are following the Chicago Summer Series. And we'll not only be live streaming a little bit this week, but we're going to be throwing out some new interviews as well. I'd like to give a shout out to Francisco Arenas. He was out in Yuma, and he was trying to live stream some action for you guys over the weekend. Good job, Frank. And if I'm not mistaken, he might be doing the draw for the mystery tournament, which is a 50 and over and a B team tournament. And then they're going to play each other one-day event out in Oak Lawn on Saturday. And I think George Bliss will be out there doing some live streaming and interviews there. So SSA broadcasts will be all over the country.
Live and kicking.
Bringing you softball. It's what we do. So again, we'd like to wish everybody a good Memorial Day weekend on our way out. Thanks for tuning in. Next time when we have another SSA Summer Series, it'll probably be a pre-North-South show. And we'll get that once we have the bracket, and we'll run through it kind of like we did here with the TOC. And then we'll also have the wrap-up where we'll get the statistics out. So first year we're doing it. So far, I think, Jerry, we're off to a good start with it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody seems to be enjoying it. And, once we start putting up those team standings, I think it's going to be add a little bit more interest to it as we go. And, I think everybody will be following that because, even though there are some teams that really improved, I just feel like, I don't know if anybody's head and shoulders necessarily, and throw in Iowa with Chuck's and Hall of Fame, and I hear Stover's playing very well out there. So I think when you throw them in the mix, I think it's going to be a crazy summer.
Oh, big time.
So on behalf of myself, SSA Broadcast, Jerry Brown, this is Gio, live from Westchester, signing off and saying we'll see you soon.
Take care, all.